Hi guys, I'm just going to give it a few minutes just to quickly connect. I am literally sitting in my hotel room in Accra. Mtetelele, hello. Oh my gosh, I haven't been on Instagram Live for such a long time. Pamela, hello to you. Beauty, Khomutso, Nomsa, Euphemia, Double Apparels. Hi guys. I just wanted to quickly come online because we had a flight. My flight was delayed. Hi Nomkosi. My flight was delayed, and because my flight was delayed, we missed our Mentorship Monday's launch. So I'm so heartbroken. But hello to all of you guys. It's so good to see all of you. So I literally just wanted to come on live and just be like, okay, let's not waste the opportunity. I know it's not 6 p.m. And so I'm heartbroken about that. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to connect with all of you. So first of all, let me just say hello from Accra, Ghana. I've just literally landed. This is my hotel room after a 6-hour flight. I've just come from Kenya. And my flight was delayed by a few hours. So when it was 6 p.m. and we were supposed to have our very first Mentorship Monday, yours truly was in between countries in the air, moving from the one place to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try and respond to the questions that I had received. And then I am going to... I'm going to save the live. I think let's do that. I'm going to save the live so that for anybody who's wasn't expecting me to come on now at 8 p.m. South African time, I think it's 8:36 in South Africa, doesn't miss the opportunity of having been on this live. So what I'm actually going to do is let me grab my laptop, because all of the questions that you sent me on my laptop, just 2 seconds. Okay, all right. Hi, Tejo. Thank you so much. Hi, Lelo. Haroon. So I've just got my laptop now. I just want to quickly go into, I want to go into all of the questions that you've sent me, and we're going to do this impromptu style. You know, they always say that, Naldik says, hi, Nozi, I will join next week. Currently swamped, all the best. Thank you so much, guys. That's absolutely fine. Remember, we're going to save these lives, right? So that if you can't catch it, that's absolutely fine. And again, for all of the guys who've just joined now, we missed our 6 o'clock date because my flight was delayed. And because my flight was delayed, I literally was in between airports at the time that we were actually going live. So I was completely heartbroken because I was like, oh my gosh, we're missing our very first one. So I just chatted to the team, and the guys are like, you know what, Nozi, just do it. It's 8 o'clock in South Africa, it's fine. And that the people who don't catch it are gonna watch the video. So okay, the reason why I'm like looking at this other screen is that I'm actually pulling up the questions that you guys sent me, so that I can actually speak to those questions. Okay, there we go. All right. Tejo Fatso says, how do I command a room with respect in meetings? And how should I request highly experienced professionals to do tasks by making them feel in control? So the long and short of it is that, how do I get people who are more accomplished than I am to do what I want them to do? It's a classical question about influence. So let me start off with, how do you command respect in a room? I think the only way you command your respect is when your reputation walks into the room before you. People don't, at least in my experience, people don't respect you because just of your because of your title, or because of who you are in an organization. They respect you because of the value that you deliver. They respect you because of what you are known for. They respect you because of your track record. So those things are important, that we're always constantly thinking about how does the work that I do speak on my behalf. so that when I step into the room, people automatically know that, okay, now we're about to hear something real, and now we're about to hear something meaningful. I also want to say one of the most overlooked things, I think, is the power of kindness. People oftentimes, I think, mistake respect for power, mistake respect for dominance, and that you will respect me because I'm powerful. You respect me because I dominate through my positional power. And I think one of the biggest secrets that we often miss is that people like being around people that they like. And so how you get people to want to do what you want them to do is also by just being kind about how you go about doing things. And when I say kind, I don't mean, I'm not talking about being a pushover and being sweet and being unnecessarily nice, but just being kind about how you do it. So let me give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a stage in Stockholm, in Sweden, and there were 2,000 people in the audience. And they were like all excited to be seeing each other for, I think, the first time in 2 years because of COVID. And they were like, chatting. And I needed all of them to keep quiet because the king of Sweden and the crown princess were about to walk in, right? And so I could have gotten onto that stage and said, everybody, I need you to keep quiet. But actually what I did is that I said to them, I would like you to help me do a good job today by please taking your seats and please allowing me to get this session started. And just the humility and the kindness with which I was asking people to do what I needed them to do actually made them feel seen, made them feel respected. And so they then saw me and respected me back, and the room just fell to a hush. And so my point that I'm making is that just be mindful of your tone when you want to command a room. Commanding a room is not always done through an iron fist. Commanding a room is not always done because I'm the most powerful person right now, because I'm the one who's standing on stage, and it is my voice that you're going to listen to. I've cringed so many times when I've gone to weddings or other events and I hear the MC shouting at people to keep quiet. People don't like to be spoken to like that. So you command a room by stepping into that room with humility and kindness and actually getting people on board on your side, so that when you ask them to do something, they actually do it as you have asked it. Teko's also saying to me, but how do I get highly experienced professionals to do tasks by making them feel in control? So I feel so bad that I'm going to share what I'm about to share, but that's fine. So I always use this example. I've got two nephews. I've got three nephews actually, but two of them are very close to each other age-wise. They're now 9 and 8. But I remember when they were much younger, when they were like 5 and 6. And one of the things that used to be really, really difficult was getting them to go and bath at bath time. Like, it was just like an absolute nightmare. And one of the things that I learned is that in order to get people to do what you want them to do, is that you've got to get them to want to do what you want them to do. So I used to say to my nephews, who wants to be Superman for the rest of the day? And they would look at me and I'd say, okay, if you want to be Superman for the rest of the day, then Superman's going to be the person who runs into the bath, takes their bath. When they finish their bath, jumps out, puts on their Vaseline, gets into their pajamas, and then you're going to get to be Superman for the rest of the day. And, like clockwork, once I'd said that, their desire for them to be Superman was the thing that got them to do what I wanted them to do. Now, I know it might seem like a very juvenile example, but I found that it actually carries through in everything that I do. When I want people to do what I need them to do, I need to make it less about myself and more about them. It's the thing that we're always preaching in corporate. We talk about customer centricity, we talk about customer intimacy, all of these big fancy words. But essentially, what we're actually saying is, how do I make my product or my service something that the customer wants before I want it for myself. So before the sale for myself, how do I get people to want this for themselves? And that's the simplicity of that. Okay, so Tsekhopatso, thank you for your question. I just wanted to say hello to so many people. Tracy, I saw you. Alicia Sekem, so nice to see my sisters here as well. So thank you very much, guys, for jumping on, despite the fact that we're now doing it 2 hours later because of flight delays and all sorts of things. So I want to pick up another question. Sinamile Ngobo sent me a question saying, okay, I'm just quickly sending somebody a quick message. Okay, so Sinamile, let's see Sinamile's question. There it is. Sinamile says, I would like to know how you've dealt with moments of self-doubt and imposter syndrome during your time at the presidency, when you went to study in London and when you pivoted your career to being a broadcaster and then a conversation strategist. And she says, I pivoted my career to impact investing and I'm struggling with confidence. The investment industry is highly male dominated and I do find myself mostly on Teams calls as the only female. This has negatively impacted my confidence from time to time and somehow has increased the need to be perfect. Sure, Sinamile, thank you for a great, very loaded question. So there are a couple of things that I think I would like to speak to there. Though I think two. One, let's talk about self-doubt and the imposter syndrome. I'll share my tips about how do I deal with that. And then secondly is the question of confidence. So how do you build and how do you cultivate confidence and how do you make sure that it actually works for you? So I've suffered from imposter syndrome myself. And I've had many instances in my career where I have felt completely out of my depth, where I have felt that I'm just faking it until I make it. And if I'm not careful, somebody is going to catch me out and realize that I'm not as great or as good as I think I am or I come across as. And it's been with me, for many, many years. I didn't necessarily have it growing up, but I think that as you do more things in life, imposter syndrome gets louder. And I think the day I released myself from imposter syndrome was probably, I think, a good 7 years ago now, when somebody said to me that, think about dogs and moving cars. Dogs only bark at moving cars. You don't see a dog approaching a stationary car and start barking at a stationary car. But if that car is moving and there's progress, that's where the dogs are attracted. And that's exactly the same concept when it comes to imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome gets louder the more you are making progress, the more you are stepping into rooms that would otherwise not have been open to people like you, the more you are stepping into your leadership posture, the more you're stepping into your purpose, the more you're making impact, the more that people are actually listening to your voice and you're really seeing your influence in action. So what I do now is that the minute I start feeling like, oh my gosh, this is bigger than me, I consciously recognize that as imposter syndrome. So that's the first thing. Consciously recognize the conversation that's happening inside of you at that time and name that. Say, in this moment, this is imposter syndrome at play. And then that allows you to say, but the reason why it's imposter syndrome is because I'm growing. I'm stepping into new spaces. I'm doing things that I wasn't doing yesterday and I wasn't doing the day before. And so because of that, I celebrate that voice now. I hear it and I say, I hear you. I see you. Thank you for reminding me that I'm making progress, that I'm moving forward, but I'm not going to stay here with you. And that for me has been an absolute breakthrough in my life. I don't get scared by the fact that I get scared sometimes. I don't get scared by the fact that I get requests that make me go, oh my gosh, why would these people trust me with something like this? I've learned that I will get called all the way from South Africa to come and moderate something in a different country where there are millions and millions of people who moderate conversations. And I look at that and I say, Why would a client say to me, because the King of Sweden and the Crown Princess of Sweden is in the room, we need Nozipho Shabalala? And my imposter syndrome goes, oh my gosh, this is royalty. You've never done this before. You're used to, presidents and ministers, but this is a different level. You're going to fail. You're going to stutter. You're going to forget your words. And the minute that starts happening, I go, Danko, thank you very much. And I hear you. I see you. Thank you for reminding me that I'm moving forward, that I'm making progress, but I'm not going to stay here with you. And I keep it moving, right? And the way I keep it moving is that because I'm scared, I work harder, I prep harder, I stand in front of the mirror, I practice, I work on my outfits, because it's the whole experience of me that I'm actually bringing into that specific space. So the other part of Sinamile's question was confidence, especially when you're not feeling like you're starting to feel like you're the only person in the room. Sinamile, I think for me, it's been, I would rather think about self-belief before confidence. Because I think in order for you to be confident, you must first believe in yourself and in your own story. Because your confidence is your expression of your self-belief. It is the expression of the conversation happening inside of you, where you're able to say, I can actually do this. I might not have done it before. It might not be the world's best in this moment, but I know that I can do it. So what I do to help me show up confidently is I start with a conversation with myself. I check in with how I'm feeling. So why am I feeling nervous, right? So why am I feeling nervous right now? Why is this thing gotten me shaky? And guys, I get shaky still, right? Like, why am I shaky? Why is this? And like, why am I sweating? Why am I feeling like this is a big moment? And then I just have to remind myself that, Nozi, they could have called anyone. They could have invited anyone, and it's you. You're the one who is here. And that's not because somebody likes you. This is not because of any connections or anything. It's because your work speaks for itself. And then I step into that space of self-belief, like, I'm capable. I can do this. I might not do it as the best person in the world right now, but I'm going to give it the best that I can. And that's when my confidence then comes through. And that's when I'm able to speak with conviction and use my voice from deep in my belly, because I believe in what I'm saying, but I also believe in myself as the conduit for what it is that I've got to say in that particular moment. So self-belief before self-confidence. Let you buying into your own story and your own capability be the expression of the confidence that you bring into every space that you step into. Okay, Sinamila, I hope that was useful. Guys, let me know. I'd love to see comments. Ayabonga, thank you so much for picking that up. Nandi, absolutely. Imposter syndrome is a reminder that we are indeed moving forward. Zola, it's nice to see you here. Bonega, hello to you. Pretty Beauty saying, hi Nosy, where do I begin if I want to start a career as a conversation strategist? I think let's park that one for next week. Because I'm going to deal with all of the questions that came through on my DMs first. Remember, that's how it's going to work, guys. Questions in the DMs, then we deal with it on the Monday. Okay. Mutsuake Rauhole says, what did you study to get into strategy? I'm currently studying my MBA and I really enjoyed the course. I'm interested in the course on strategy. I'm interested in that career path, but I only have a background in statistics. I can never say that word, stats. I'm wondering what further course I can do in strategy and what background does one need to have. Mutsuake, I am the worst person to talk about careers based on academic on academic achievement. And the reason why I say that is that my career has really been not driven by what I've studied. It's been driven by what have I done with what I've studied. It doesn't matter what you study. It's what you do with it. So let me put that into English a little bit. So I I think a lot of us, when I was in high school, used to go into the life orientation class, LO, and used to listen to my teacher telling me that, you know, you need to choose to study something that if there was no money, that you wouldn't mind not getting paid for it, that you need to be passionate about. My reality was, it was none of that stuff about what I was passionate about. My reality was I was poor. I came from a poor family. And so I had to look at the prospectus and say, what is the cheapest course that I can study? That's how I chose what I was going to study. My first degree was in political sciences at the University of Pretoria. It was one of the cheapest courses I could study with the subjects that I had. So I don't have this airy, beautiful story about going a particular route because I was passionate about it. I went a particular route because that's the only option that I had. Then I was already in, and my parents were like, no, we were supportive of you going doing postgraduate. So I did my honors, and I specialized in international relations. And the reason why I did that is that when I was in the politics class, I realized I really loved the stuff about the world and how governments work. And then I went to work, right? So I went and I did an internship at the presidency, and it was while I was there that I actually got a scholarship to go study abroad. I was working in the presidency. I had studied political sciences. I had majored in international relations in my honors. And so the thing that made the most sense at the time was to build on that. So I then went and I did a master's in international relations and diplomacy. And again, I was using what was around me and where I was in my career to try and make the most of that opportunity. And it didn't make sense for me to go and study something completely new at that time. I came back into the country, I continued to work, and then I had an opportunity to go and join CNBC Africa. And I just remember feeling very inadequate in terms of the finance part. Like I didn't really know or felt that I didn't really know how to ask good questions of a CEO. I didn't know how the JSE works, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. I didn't know how to trade shares. I didn't know what financial markets are and how financial markets work. So what I did is that I did a second master's, and this time part-time, at Stellenbosch Business School. And I was petrified because I had been one of those people growing up. I'd always told myself, I'm a words person. I'm not a numbers person. I don't do numbers. I don't do well with numbers. All the rubbish we tell ourselves as we're growing up. And here I was now doing a master's degree in development finance. It's the only reason I didn't do a pure MBA is that I looked at the modules and I was just like, I don't want to suffer through this. I don't care for the things that are listed here. And it was a big brave move on my side because at the time, and this was like 2015, everybody was getting MBAs, right? And I just looked at it and I was like, I'm not moved by the idea of suffering through corporate finance. I'm not moved by the idea of suffering through strategy. And instead, I was beginning to discover my love for the continent. And so that's when I then decided that, you know what? I'm going to do a master's in development finance. I love the idea of project finance because I was like, okay, now I can understand how big infrastructure projects on the continent are financed. I love the idea of economics. I had done economics in my earlier degrees. I loved and enjoyed international economics, not microeconomics, so macro and not microeconomics. And I did international law. And so all of those things actually spoke to me. And I used that degree so much in the work that I did at CNBC Africa. But a long story short is that I learned that, Peter, I'm going to come to your question now. I learned that you've got to make your degree serve you. You're not in service of your degrees. You are not going to be dictated to by a degree what you do with your life. We've got to get into the mindset that we go to get an education, to use that education as a tool to do whatever it is that we want. I am deeply inspired by the fact that if you go to McKinsey, for example, you'll find a consultant with a medical degree. They're not busy operating in people in surgery, but they're taking the discipline of medicine and they're applying it into the world of problem solving for corporates. That's I think is the intention of an education. So the long story of it, Mutswake, is study what makes your heart feel good. Study what makes you happy. Don't suffer through an academic program that doesn't ignite you. Whatever it is that you study, you will then use that. So Peter's question was, where did I study? So I studied at the University of Pretoria, my first 2 degrees. Then I studied at the University of London in SOAS in the UK. Then I studied at Wits. Actually, I did a part-time thing in marketing. And then I studied at Regenesis. I did something in project management. And then I did a master's at Stellenbosch Business School in development finance. And I am now struggling to get into a PhD program. Struggling because it's tough. I got my first rejection earlier this year, but we don't give up. We keep moving. So I've studied a lot, but I've studied things that are like, what's interesting right now? What makes me curious right now? And then I take that and I use it in my work. Today, I use so much of my international relations background. I use so much of my politics background. I use so much of my finance background. But I'm not going to be dictated to by a piece of paper to say, because I studied education, now I must be a teacher. No, I will be whatever I want to be. I will use what I've learned through the discipline of education and apply it wherever. It is application, guys. Application. I really want you for you to hear me when I speak about this. We study so that we can apply the knowledge to do whatever we want to do. It can't be that you are now stuck because this is the one thing that you've studied. If you've got a stats background, my goodness, you can use that in so many things. So you've got to change the conversation in your interviews, and don't position yourself as defined by your degree. We're not defined by degrees. Degrees are here to serve us, not the other way around. Let me pick up some comments. Nandi, absolutely. Our degrees are here to serve us. I think there was a question. Okay. I want to see. Okay, perfect. So more comments, not so many questions. So thank you for that, guys. Mutswake, thank you for a beautiful question. I could speak about this forever. Hi, Kia. I could speak about it forever. All right. Temba says, second last question, guys. I've got to run. I'm supposed to be in a cocktail party right now. Temba says, how does one structure and drive a conversation during panel moderation or one-on-one interviews on what are the main things to focus on? It's a very big question, Temba. So I'm going to keep it short by focusing on the most important thing. Number one, as a moderator, a conversation strategist, a facilitator, whatever you call yourself, you are in service of the conversation. It is not about you. I can't land that enough. I've seen so many people getting onto the stage and using the stage for their own performance. It's not about you. It really is about the conversation. So the most important question you've got to ask yourself first is, in what ways can I serve this conversation today? And the best way to serve a conversation as a conversation strategist is by asking transformative and breakthrough questions. So have you done your work? Have you done your research? Do you understand the subject matter? How good are your questions? Have you tested? Have you asked somebody who's an expert, like, what do you think about these questions? Are they really hitting the core of the big issues? And then the other thing is to remember that you're not a journalist, right? So don't get onto stage and start interrogating people as this hardcore journalistic style. People don't like to be in those conversational spaces. Our job is, how do we get the best out of the panelists themselves so that they can shine and that the best of them can come out? So it's not about being interrogative. It's not about being this star that is now showing up everyone as not as smart as them. It's really about how do I get the best of my panelists, and how do I ask the questions in such a way that they want to lean into the conversation and they want to participate in the conversation. I think that driving a conversation is, okay, let me say this differently, because I know I always get in trouble when I say this because it's not a popular thing, but please hear me out. The most important thing you can do in a conversation is listen. You have to listen. Those who know me know that I love David Whyte. He's my favorite poet. And one of the things that David Whyte talks about, he says, you have to listen. You have to listen a conversation into existence more than speak a conversation into existence. And of course, I'm going to come to you now. Let me try and pin that. More than speak a conversation into existence. And I think that's really, really important. Are you listening? Are you listening to what people are saying? Or do you just have your list of questions that you've prepared and now you're going to go through those questions? I always come onto stage with a list of questions that I prepared. The real conversation happens in between those questions. If I could show you, I just don't have anything here. I have scribbles all over my prepared notes, because as you're listening, you're realizing that, oh, actually, I can't ask this question this way because they've already partly answered this part. I've got to ask it this way, and I need to take that out. I need to lift this up. And so the conversation organically happens in the moment. You cannot get that organic conversation if you're not listening. It's the most important thing that you can do. Make sure that you are listening. And maybe in another mentorship session, we can talk about how do you listen beneath the waterline. So what do I mean by that? I mean, when you're listening, you're not only hearing what's being said, you can also hear what's not being said. You're also hearing the omissions. You're hearing the things that are being kept away. You're hearing the values. You're hearing the fears. You're hearing the dreams, even when they're not using words to describe them. You're looking at body language, and you can see reactions, and you can sense make on the back of those reactions. But I think we'll do that on another live. Nomkosi says, just a comment saying, moderators shouldn't badger the panelists. Our role is to get them to feel comfortable enough to go beyond the call of the question asked. Excellent. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Thanks so much, Nomkosi. Okay, last question from Snowy. Snowy says, you seem to always be traveling. How do you balance that with your personal time with your family? Is there a way to balance it? What advice would you give young couples around balancing work and personal life commitments? Okay, thank you. Great question. I love the fact that you've actually asked that. I think there's a lot of people who have made a lot of assumptions about my life, my personal life, and I think it's great that we can actually talk about it here. Okay, so I'm married. Have been married for 2 years, and I think one of the greatest gifts that God has given me is being married to a really, really amazing man. And I say amazing because he accepts me as I am, and part of me and part of my DNA is that I think I'm back. I'm a very, very ambitious person. I love my work. I'm driven by my work. And my husband is really, really, really supportive of that. And I think if he wasn't, it would really, really be such a difficult relationship to be in for me. We're very supportive of each other and our careers. He's also an entrepreneur. So when you've got two entrepreneurs in the house, you know, the most important thing you can give to each other is absolute support and backing, to be each other's reminder that we are capable, that we are making a difference in the world in our respective and different ways, and to be a safe space to come home to. I travel a lot, and I always say that I think my husband has the best times when I'm not around. You know, people are always saying, Nosy, you're always traveling. I think he has the best time when I'm not around. He does all the things that I just can't stand. But also he travels too. So that also helps, right? Because it's not about him just waiting for me to come home. He's also traveling. We've had a couple instances where we've had to meet at the airport because we just happened to be in that same airport at that time, and literally have a cup of coffee and then separate again. Today, we said goodbye to each other at the airport in Nairobi today, as he was headed somewhere else and I was coming here to Ghana. But I'm going to see him again in 2 days, and I think I'm gonna be home for at least a couple of weeks. No, I lie, a couple of days, maybe a week and a half before I go off again. And I just think that it matters who you marry. You've got to check these things even before you marry that person. It's really, really important that you marry somebody who supports your dreams, and they don't just support your dreams at the place where they find you now, but they support your dreams at the place where you're potentially going. They're able to support your growth and to see you through your growth and to let you flourish. And so, yeah, maybe we have another session on, are you marrying the right person? Because that matters. It does impact your career. It impacts what you do. I travel without fear because I know where home is, and home is with my husband and my family. But I also know that I'm fully supported in everything that I do professionally, and that means the world to me. So I've got to go. I'm in deep trouble now. So cheers. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for just logging on at this much later stage than we anticipated. I will be touching base with you next week for Mentorship Mondays. Bye-bye. Cheers.